So hi, welcome to my podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
And we're here with.
Hi, I'm Brian,
And I'm Daniel.
and we are the home team.
And we're going to have some questions to say about the upcoming album, The Crucible of Life. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you guys feel about the response, the announcement so far?
Great. It's been nothing but fantastic, which is a huge relief considering this album had a lot of pressure on it to do well, just because it was our first album since Slow Bloom.
Mhm.
And it has been a big sigh of relief, needless to say.
Yeah, the responses seemed amazing from the outside looking in. All of the singles have been fantastic, and I'm very excited for this album.
Yes.
Cool. With that.
We're not receiving as much hate as I thought we were, and I hope this isn't just calling more people to send us hate, but I feel like I expected more negativity.
Send us hate.
As the guy who reads all the comments, please don't. It hurts.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Yeah. Album, well, not album, but the singles so far are incredible. They've been on loop. You guys are fucking crushing it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Of course. So is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
Yeah, for sure. So one day back, like probably a year and a half ago, John, our guitarist, was going about his day, and I'm pretty sure some like minor inconvenience happened to him,
Like someone stole his parking spot or something.
Damn.
something dumb.
Mhm.
And we met up and we were talking about music, and he just said, "I'm tired of being hardened in the crucible of life." We're like, hardened in the
Dramatic.
crucible of life, bro. That is poetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what we didn't know is that that statement was such a precursor, foreshadowing, if you will, for how the process of making the album would go. Because if you look at the album art, it's actually two crucibles. It's one big one and then a small one above it.
Mhm.
And that is to represent the fact that when we were doing the DIY grind for like 7 years of our life,
Yeah.
if not more, we always thought that once our music started making us money and we were able to make a living on it, that's when it would become easy, and that's when we would escape the crucible. And we just basically found out that we jumped out of a smaller one into a much bigger one.
Yeah.
Things got a lot harder, a lot more pressures started happening. It just became, I mean, it became our jobs, but became a job. And
Mhm.
it was a huge transition, and with that many more eyes on us and that many more hands in the kitchen, it was really tough. It was really tough to make the album. But if you don't get hardened by it, you crack. So
Yeah.
we feel like we're a lot stronger after the fact, for having gone through it.
After the beginning of our of the writing process for this album, we were joking with our like the head of our label that I don't if he meant to do this, he's a genius, but he put us through the hardest thing we've ever had to go through, and we are like so confident and solidified as a unit now
Mhm.
that it was like the best team building thing he ever could have done.
Mhm.
Like I don't think he meant to do that, but we
He
are
goes,
like
"No, I didn't mean to do that."
like we are such a cohesive unit now.
Mhm.
Like, man, Bob, you're a genius.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So can you guys tell us a little bit about your writing process for the album?
Sure. Yeah. So this one, we came into it. It was very different than Slow Bloom because this one involved a lot more people, um, for better or for worse. Because of that, I found out that I write music very differently than a lot of other people do. And I write it slower than a lot of other people do.
Mhm.
And it's mostly because if I come up with something I don't like, I don't even entertain it. I just keep moving. I say, okay, well, no, I'm going to redevelop that, or no, I'm going to work on that. But we very rarely will write an entire song that we don't like, because it's usually more so if there's something wrong with the song, there is at least a couple good ideas in there, because otherwise we wouldn't have entertained it at all.
Mhm.
And if there's something wrong with the song, we just need to figure out what that is and keep honing it, keep refining it until it's where we want it to be.
Mhm.
And when we realized that that's not really how a lot of other people write music, we started to find out what we didn't want to do, pretty quickly. And so I'm really happy with this album, like the way it turned out. It was really hard to make, but to be honest, I'm really excited to write the next one because now we know what not to do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
typically what it looks like is it starts with John, our guitarist. He comes with a riff and sometimes even a whole song idea. After that, it moves to Daniel to put down MIDI drums of what his general idea is. And then it's kind of a more fluid motion of, obviously we get Ryan's take on the bass. But I don't really come into it until I've had a chance to mess with the song structure and the overall picture of it. Because I think I'm a little more hands on the instrumental than a lot of singers, just because my background is guitar playing and I used to write the whole instrumentals myself. So
Yeah.
I'll also do like additional synth elements because I really like playing around with that stuff before I get to finally working on the vocals. And once I do the vocals, then after that is when we move to even more production stuff. So like if I want to get somebody else on additional production, we call it Ad Pro. For this album, Sky Accord did a lot of it actually, and then Zach Jones, the producer, did a bunch of it as well. The previous album, we had a buddy from Portland do a lot of Ad Pro, and it just like kind of elevates the song. But yeah, it's a pretty organic process typically. But for this one, it was that mixed with this guy or this guy or this guy or this guy or these people, and yeah.
So bringing in co-writers to the fold, like how did that change the process for you guys?
So a lot of the co-writers are producers themselves, and we found that a lot of people go in with no idea and then they leave with a recorded song, and that is just not how we work. We tried it. We got a couple songs done that way, and we knew pretty quickly, like even while doing it, that these are just not home team songs. Like these songs could be anybody, and they just didn't feel like us. So we took like one of those songs and completely rewrote the instrumental. And like Brian took the vocals home and reworked it. So they're based on the same chord structure, but like the songs change pretty dramatically. Some co-writers are just, you sit in a room. Like we have a couple songs, like we wrote a song with Jaden Seeley from With Confidence that didn't make the record. We just wrote it. It sat in the Google Drive, and that was kind of it.
And it was cool. It was not a bad song at all. That might even entertain it for the next one. It was a cool song. I just didn't get to it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the stuff that turned out the best is when we were with the Accord Brothers. So we're with Sky and Ty, and that's how Loud came to be. There's another song. Is it Somebody Else's Face?
Yep.
That was
Turn You Off.
And Turn You Off. Somebody Else's Face, one of the songs towards the end of the record, was literally Ty. Like John said, Ty, will you just give me an R&B beat? Just give me anything. And then John just started strumming over it. And then we slowly built a riff, and then that turned into a chorus, and then added a verse, and then became a full song.
Gotcha.
Damn, wow. So start to finish, roughly, how long does your average song take you? Because you said you work pretty slowly.
It's a tough question to answer because when I say slowly, it's not so much that I mean like I'm slow while I'm writing. It's more so that we want to sit with things. And so if I'm going to answer the question honestly, like 9 months, but that's because we're like changing and adding and tweaking for like that entire span of time. And realistically, it only comes down to, okay, it's finally done when either we feel like it's finally done or when we are out of time.
But there's also something to the like creative process when everyone's in a flow state and everything's like really just hitting. Sometimes songs get written really fast. Like Brag was written in one day. I mean, we did more to it later, but like we pretty much finished the song structure and everything in one day. That was the first day working with Zach Jones after a very traumatic recording experience. And we came in hot and just like wrote that in one day. And we all knew right away, like, oh, this one's fucking it. And then I think the following day we wrote Roommates pretty much front to back. So like those were just day one, day two, songs were pretty much done. And then Brian took them home to write vocals.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Are you able to touch on what the traumatic writing experience was. I'm curious. Unless you don't want to share, then that's completely fine.
Yeah, I mean, we won't name names or anything, but we just went in with a producer who works very differently from us. Their game was speed and
Oh.
record songs, like bring a band in, you leave with a finished song, and we are just not that way. We left with 3 finished songs, and they just weren't really us. Yeah, so it was just from us coming from we have all the time in the world and we're going to let these marinate in our Google Drive for 6 months until Brian is like, you know, until inspiration strikes and he knows what he wants to write over it. Compare that to, all right, everyone's in a room, cool, your song's done, print it. Like it was very difficult for us, hard for us to come to terms with the speed of everything. But it ended up yielding a bunch of really good songs after we realized that's not how we wanted to do things.
Yeah.
I think another thing to mention though is that the reason it was like traumatic, quote unquote, is because it was the first thing we did.
Oh wow.
If it was the last thing we did for that album cycle, we would have known. We would have been like, this isn't what we want to do. But because it was the first thing we did and it was the first time going with a different style of writing, we were just like, are we supposed to just do this? Is this what we're supposed to do? And we were just like, it just kind of rocked our boat, so to speak.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, completely fair. Yeah. So what song off this album took longest to write, and which one is each of your own personal favorite?
Mine is the same answer.
Oh, okay.
It is a song called Turn You Off. It is the first song on the album. It took the longest to write because we started it way long ago. And I guess technically it was kind of done, but I ended up going back and like, again, reworking, changing things like right before the album was done being mixed. We recorded Turn You Off with Sky and Ty up in Seattle, like
December 2022.
December 2022.
It was supposed to be the first single that we released on Thriller, and they heard it and they were like, yeah, try again. This ain't it, Chief.
They didn't say that this ain't it. They said, we want to see what you guys make when you go down to LA.
And when you hear it, you'll understand. It is
you'll know.
It's a fantastic song, but it's like it's a lot. We do a lot. Loud
favorite.
Yeah, Loud is when you compare the two, it's clear that Loud is like the first single you release on the new album, but like Turn You Off is also a banger, but that one's more for us.
Okay. Damn, I'm excited. You got me excited.
Daniel, what's your favorite?
You know, I say Turn You Off is my favorite because it was when we were writing it, Sky and Ty, for anyone who doesn't know, they are like the brains behind Issues. So like all the true, and every single person that was in that band was like S tier musically. That's why they were so good. But watching those two work and like taking my basic drum idea and they'd be so granular down to like, I don't know that this hi-hat note should be there. It kind of feels unnecessary. What if we take this one out? So like in the chorus drum groove, it's just missing one hi-hat note from being a complete like eighth notes all the way through. And they were like just super granular, and they literally rewrote my part to be something that sounded good to their ears without any thinking about the human being that has to play it. So like when I recorded
when
it,
you got Josh Manuel, tell him to play whatever.
Oh yeah, he can do anything.
Yeah.
I can do some stuff, not quite anything.
Yeah.
And so like having to learn how to play the groove now, it's funny, when I recorded it the first time, I was struggling. There was a lot of copy paste of the first version. And going back and listening to that original track, I'm like, man, this is really not that good. We did end up fully re-recording everything. So now like the groove is just like I'm one with it. But musically, that was the most challenging piece And still, we're preparing for our summer school tour set, and it is the hardest song to play, but it is very sick.
All right.
Yeah.
It'll be in the set.
It is. Yep.
Oh
Hell yeah. All right.
We're playing this song forever.
Oh, good.
All right. So how did the track list for the album come about? Did you guys write the opener be the opener, closer be a closer, just shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
Turn You Off being the earliest song definitely lent itself to being first.
Mhm.
Loud being last, I had this whole thing in my head about how I didn't really want to compete with Danger, the last song on the last album, because it's very, very explosive. It's very big. It's got this massive, like crazy guitar solo. And there's a song called Love When You're Used that is the penultimate track on this album. And it ends in a way that's like kind of big and kind of cool. And like, it definitely is a great song, but it's not as crazy as that one was. And I didn't want them to have to compete with one another. I didn't want people like going through and comparing, oh, this one just kind of lacked compared to Danger. And so because of that, I took a page out of Doja Cat's book and put the hard-hitting like big single last on the album. And I also love the way that song just kind of fades out. The ending that Low File made, Ty, is so good. So I don't know.
Hell yeah.
But other than that, I pretty much make the track list myself, and then I run it by the guys and see what they think. And very rarely does anybody have a problem. They're like, yeah, man, sounds great.
Fair enough.
Also, nerdy music stat stuff. Typically, the songs towards the end of the album go down in streams, and that's true for like every single one of our albums, with the exception of Danger. That one song goes back up. I think specifically because it has those two features, and so fans from those bands go and listen to it too.
I think it's because it kicks ass. But...
Well, it does kick ass, but Fade Out kicks ass too, and it's the lowest streaming song on Better Off by a mile.
But it doesn't kick. It's like Danger kicks ass.
Still, but people, I mean, the trend is the first 5 songs like go up, and then it slowly goes down towards the end of the album. I think it just not because the songs are bad, but just because people will listen to 8 songs and stop, 7 songs, and you never know what happens in real life.
Car.
Yeah. So hopefully this will keep people listening all the way through the end of the record more frequently.
Yeah. Hell yeah. And the rest of the album is just like, was it based on vibes? Is kind of how you float it?
Yeah. I've always been a bit of a nerd for track listing. I grew up listening to Coheed and Cambria, who are extremely intentional about their track listing. And for that reason, I like doing it. I like figuring out like what makes sense, like flows into one another. Like, oh, this is a down and this is an up, but this is a really good like intermediary between the two and things like that.
Yeah, makes sense.
So would you guys be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this record?
Making sure it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was like a lot of pressure from the outside of like this being a good record, because there was like no pressure with Slow Bloom. I mean, Better Off.
We do whatever we wanted.
Yeah, with Better Off, those are songs that we had written over the previous 6 or 7 years. So we just finally got to record all the songs into one album. Slow Bloom, we're like, well, if we're not going to make a living doing music, might as well do what we like. And then just wrote something that felt good to us and people liked it. But now there's a whole lot more on the line, because we all had jobs when we were doing Slow Bloom. This is the job now.
Yeah. Funny that you use the word headspace, because I had this conversation with Sky when I was doing the issue shows, that this is very much so our headspace, like their album headspace. And Slow Bloom is just like their self-title, because Headspace was their difficult album to write. For very similar reasons, like we talked about it. And it's like the cadence is very similar. And so I'm very, very excited to write our Beautiful Oblivion.
Hell yeah. Obviously there was a lot of pressure. There's been a lot since we chatted before Slow Bloom came out, and there's been a lot that's changed since then. A lot of big shows, a lot of big tours. You're on a new label. How did you guys kind of manage the pressure and everything, the outside, and kind of zone in and write what you wanted to write at the end of the day?
Asking for more time. It really came down to just, dude, we need more time. Like
Yeah.
we just don't want these songs to come out the way they are right now because they're not us yet. And that was mostly me. I just kind of needed like, I remember we were on the headlining tour of last year when we had a call, and I told Bob, I was just like, these songs are good, but they're not me, and they're not good enough. I just need the summer, because we had the summer off of touring. It's like I just need the summer to like take these songs back into my buddy's studio down the street, where I feel very comfortable and can take as much time as I need for it. And honestly, just because of how tumultuous the touring schedule was last year, just being able to sit right where I'm sitting right now and just write some stuff. Like I really didn't get that luxury very often. And usually when I can turn off my phone and be in the comfort of my own home is when I can write really good stuff. And having to be in all these crazy places, like on tour or in a different studio that I've ever been to, just wasn't very conducive for me for being able to write good music. So I really just needed more time.
Yeah.
Is that an overtime reference?
To bring everything around you to life.
And how did, like, because obviously it seems like this record was kind of written in between touring and when you guys were home. How did you guys kind of keep yourselves in that creative headspace while bouncing between the two so frequently?
Man, it's hard, but with the writing of this record, we went down to LA and spent like a month there. I think a couple of us went back home for different periods of time. But we had an Airbnb in LA for like a month where all we were doing was writing music. So having no other job and forcing you to write is one way to start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, if I'm going to be honest, I didn't stay in creative headspace. I definitely got interrupted many times, which was another reason why it was just very difficult to write it.
That's fair enough. Yeah. So how do you guys recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? Should they do it in the car with friends, in dark with headphones on? Is it a workout album, party album? What do you guys personally recommend?
I would say probably alone with headphones. Or driving by yourself. I just think like, I don't know. I grew up listening to a lot of prog metal, and so it's like I'm very used to very involved music. And I wouldn't say that we are quite that involved, but we like to sneak a lot of stuff, a lot of details into our music. And so sometimes, but we want it to be easily digested by somebody who doesn't really have any interest in going that deep. So that's a balance we try and strike. I think this album does it pretty well. And I can't wait for everybody to kind of hear all those little, like production nuggets and like little tweaks and changes we make throughout each chorus to make each one get bigger, things like that. Like we sneak a lot of details in. So I'd say for your first listen, pay attention.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right. So this one should be super, super quick off the top of your heads. I want you guys to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. 3 words each, 6 total, no more, no less.
Oh, that stuff. I would say, well, the first word that came to my mind was tumultuous. I think you'll be able to feel that. You'll be able to feel like that was an aspect of it. There's a lot of references to love. Literally 2 songs have love in the song title. So I would say love, whether it be for actual physical love or for the love of, art and the craft. Tumultuous, love, and I would say fresh. There's a lot of new shit on there that I don't think that a lot of people have done before. And that I think if there's any one thing I am proud of us for, it's that we are trying to create something that it's hard to compare us to.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Oh yeah, Daniel.
I would say heavy, dancey, and emotional.
Oh, you went way less metaphorical than I did.
Yeah.
A little bit
I
more on the
go-
nose.
I'd say the whole process, tumultuous is a great way to describe it.
Yeah.
But I think you can hear a lot. I mean, if you've listened to Walk This World with me, there's a whole lot of emotions going on in there. I think that's the most I've ever, actually, not I think, it is the most I've ever seen people say, I listened to this in my car and I cried.
Goddamn.
I did not get that response for Another Night Alone with You, so I'm very happy I was able to make round 2 hit even harder.
Yeah.
You won. Yeah, hell yeah.
So in that same train of thought, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want listeners to have going through the album?
I'm tossing between vindication and empowerment.
It can be both.
Sure. But the reason being is because a big part of what we do is like trying to be genuine with our art and by proxy our fans. And we don't that's the thing. It's like this whole album was a big clash of us trying to be ourselves and trying to mitigate different aspects of the music world in the process. And there's nobody at fault for any of it. It's just how the whole thing worked. And so what we really want people to feel is the fact that we think it is important to be genuine with yourself and genuine with the way that you present yourself to the world, and just being yourself. And so, I mean, maybe genuine's the word I'm looking for instead of, I don't know, empowered to feel genuine. Yeah, you get it. But
Gotcha.
there's 3 words for you.
All right.
Wonderful. I know. So, are you guys able to touch on any particularly challenging or standout moments during the creation of this album, positive or negative?
Yeah, I mean, our writing trip to LA was a lot. We got through. We basically had done something with Slow Bloom that worked. We wrote a great record. We're very, very proud of it, and the response was really positive. And then the first thing that we do with writing the new record is abandon that strategy and do something totally different because that's the way most bands write records. And it was really hard for us. We did not have a great time. We wrote some music we weren't really very happy with. And it was the first thing that we did on that writing trip. So like the first 8 days were spent with us unhappy.
Yeah.
And then that kind of sparked the follow-up sessions where we wrote the music that we were really proud of. Was that like strenuous, tumultuous time, like trying to write the first couple songs. Yeah.
I mean, the trip for sure was a big part of it. I think a highlight for me was spending summer in Seattle, recording my vocals. Because even with Slow Bloom, it was more collaborative in the sense that everybody was still in the room. When I recorded the vocals for this album, it was me and the engineer. And I pretty much just told him, yeah, go there. Okay, now record this. Now do this. Obviously, he had ideas too. But I pretty much just directed the process, and that I was really scared to do that by myself because I'd never done it by myself. And I felt way more confident and empowered at the end of that because I was like, oh, I can do this by myself. I know what I'm doing. Okay, thank goodness.
I think we've all learned to trust in our own taste a lot more because every step of the way our growth has happened so fast that it's really hard to kind of keep up and appreciate what's happening. And I feel like every step of the way when we get to a new point, in my mind, I think, oh, the people who have been here or the people who do this for a living must know better than I do. And just time and time again, we find that our instincts,
no one knows shit.
Yeah, everyone's just trying to figure it out the best they can. Our instincts were pretty much on point at the start, so we should just trust our gut. And having gotten to the point that we're at, I feel like I would much rather fail trusting our gut than succeed listening to other people.
And
Absolutely.
the other thing that I'll even add to that is that for what it's worth, it's not that other people are dumb. It's just that they don't know us. Like they don't know
Yeah.
what we're doing.
Mhm.
We know what we're doing, like what we want to do more than anybody. So
Yeah.
it's not a matter of incompetence. It's just a matter of like there's no really reason to trust anybody more than ourselves.
Absolutely.
I'm right.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Have you guys gotten a chance to like reflect on everything that's happened since Slow Bloom, or has it just been like full steam ahead and at some point it'll slow down and that's when you'll be able to be like, oh fuck? Or has that moment kind of happened for you?
I try to take a step back as often as possible and like you said, reflect and appreciate the growth, because the growth is only going to happen once,
Mhm.
and then it's going to be a decline. How long and how steep that decline is varies from person to person, but eventually you reach your peak.
Yeah.
Hopefully we are still on the way up, and there's a very long, very slow decline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These last between the issues shows and the Australian tour, I had like 3 months at home, which was really nice.
Mhm.
And that I think I did a lot of reflecting after that because I mean, I might as well just bring it up. Doing those issues shows was huge for me because I grew up listening to them and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always been such a huge fan that kind of forced me to reflect. I was like, how did I get here? What's going on? Like how did I get here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's over the last like 4 months, since January, 5 months, I guess. I kind of had a little more of an opportunity because I slowed down a bit, and yeah, so yeah, I did get a little bit of an opportunity too.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Mhm.
And for the last couple questions, going to shift completely away from music. So, if you could be one animal for the rest of your life, what animal would you be and why?
Being a California condor sounds pretty cool. Just flying through
That
the air,
is.
all big like.
Yeah.
I would for sure be a bird, no doubt.
Mhm.
Like obviously, if I could be top of the food chain, that'd also be cool. Just because I don't want to be a sparrow or like a pigeon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to just be a house cat.
Badass.
My cats have it pretty good,
Mhm.
and to just be like the apple of some person's eye would be great.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree.
Same, right. Yeah. So, if you could have lunch with any celebrity or artist, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Bernie Sanders is up there for me.
Okay, Bernie.
That'd be pretty cool. There's probably a few though. Wait, you said artist?
I
Or
said,
you
just
said celebrity?
celebrity or
Okay,
Yeah.
artist. Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I
So
didn't know
no,
that had to be in music, but honestly, the Dalai Lama would be. Oh no, wait, Mahatma Gandhi. Final
Okay.
answer.
All right.
Okay, locked in.
Man, it'd be cool to have lunch with Kendrick
Yeah,
and just pick his
Yeah.
brain musically and artistically,
Yes.
because he's about the most successful, most artistic and true to his art, no matter what person
Mhm.
on the planet.
that would be cool.
Yeah.
Agree. Yeah.
Hell yeah. And for this last question, boom, you're on a desert island. You can bring one movie, one album, and one person. Who and what are you guys bringing?
Movie, I'm bringing Princess Mononoke.
Mhm.
Album, I'm bringing. Oh wow, it's like impossible. I think I'm gonna bring something calming
Okay.
because I'm just gonna be panicked the whole time. Um,
Fair.
Everything Fades to Blue by Sleepy Fish is
Are you sure a sleepy fish wouldn't remind you the fact that you're on an island too much?
the cover is literally a ship in the ocean.
Oh.
Like, damn, what I wouldn't do for that ship right now.
I know.
Oh.
I think I'm bringing it.
All right.
I'm bringing Sleepy Fish. And then what was the third thing?
Person.
Oh, my wife. Tess. Yeah.
Easy.
If I had to bring first the album, I'd say Highly Refined Pirates by Minus the Bear. I can listen to that album forever on repeat and never get tired of it. I would bring movie. Let's go with Miracle, the hockey movie about the 1980 U.S. men's Olympic hockey team.
Nice.
Very inspiring. And then person, I'd bring my wife.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Makes sense.
So
We
as
would
I,
get in trouble for anything else.
so as I said, that's all the questions of today. Is there anything that you guys like to plug?
We have a new album coming out on July 12th. We're going on tour with the summer school tour, starting
July 10th.
10th? Yes, July 10th. And you should come to that tour and buy our album.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you for sounding, guys. It's been Brian and Daniel from the home team, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.